One of my favorite people is my guest this week. She is talented, she's lovely, she's funny, she's smart, and she's Paget Brewster. Hello, my love.
Ralph,
Well,
so
I can't help
nice.
it. It's
I
true.
love it.
Paget and I met doing another podcast of a mutual friend, Arden Marine, who does a show called Will You Accept This, Rose? Because we were both obsessed with the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise.
I haven't watched last night's episode
You haven't
yet.
watched?
No, because there's construction going on at my house and it got too loud and I was getting angry that I couldn't figure out what was going on.
Okay, we won't talk about it then. It doesn't matter because this interview will play later anyway, so
Okay.
we won't do that. But wait till you see it. It's a goodie.
Is it really
Yeah.
good? Okay, I talked to Anna earlier this morning.
Jordan, the model, has maybe his best episode.
I know
ever.
he's in the gold underpants.
Gold lame underpants.
I
yeah.
love it. Okay, great.
But it's what he says it gets even better.
Oh,
than
good,
that,
good,
so
good, good.
You'll enjoy.
I hope the producers keep him as long as possible.
Me
I know
too.
she would love to cut him loose. But
I hope he becomes the next Bachelor.
he's
I hope
the
he
best.
Gets a
He's
spin-off.
the best. He's all the television that's happening in that show.
But I've bothered Paget to come over to record because I think she's had such an interesting career with so many cool things in it that I would love to talk to you about some of these. Because I was a fan before I was your friend. Before I ever met you, I was a fan for a long time.
Oh, that's nice.
So this is a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Oh, Ralph, stop it.
Let's start at the beginning. Concord, Massachusetts girl, right? Is that where
Yes.
you're originally from?
Born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts. My mom and dad were teachers at a private boarding school called Middlesex, so we lived in a dormitory. My dad taught English and economics, and my mom taught pottery, ceramics.
Huh.
So we my brother and I, he's 3 years younger, my brother Ivan, we grew up in a dormitory on a campus in Massachusetts, which I didn't realize was the best way to grow up because you're safe and you've got a bunch of other kids you run around with. We had a library and a pond and a movie theater. And
What was the grades at the school? Where did it go from?
it was just freshman through senior year high school.
High school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a boys' school only until 1976, I think, and then it went co-ed.
Is your family from like the Mayflower or
Yes.
something?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
guess
thought
there were-
Massachusetts, and I looked at some of the names. Your mom's name was Hathaway.
Yeah.
Your dad's name is Galen.
Yeah.
You're Paget. It sounds like characters from the Crucible or something. Your whole family.
And then my brother Ivan, with no Russian, no Russian in our family whatsoever. Yeah.
But you're actually descendants from the Mayflower.
Yes,
right?
William Elder Brewster was the patriarch of one of the 5 families that survived their first crippling winter.
Wow, you're like
Yeah.
the most American person I've ever met.
Well, I would say American Indians are more American.
All right, if you want to get
then-
real. Okay, so your parents work at the school. Did you get to go there for free because they work
Oh, I did, and that was a bad idea.
there? Why?
Well, it wasn't the right school for me. So my parents, part of their pay structure was if my grades were good enough, I could go to this pretty elite private boarding school for free because I still lived in the dorm with my mom and dad.
Awesome.
My grades were good enough, but I had only been to all girls schools, and I wasn't very socially adept. I'm dyslexic, and really people really weren't aware of how to sort of work with that back then. And I was a kind of nerdy, and I had your haircut. It was the 80s. And so I really didn't fit in, and these were very wealthy, international, rich kids. And so I tried to, get accepted, and I wanted to be cool, and it just wasn't the right place for me. My grades were terrible. I was asked to leave my first year there, and it was the first time I ever saw my father cry.
No way.
Oh, he was just devastated.
You
Not-
must have been mortified.
Oh, I was. It was horrible. It was terrible and shaming and
Now, when you say you wanted to be cool and be accepted and everything, what kind of behavior did that lead to then?
well, I was
Were you acting out?
trying to hang out with cool kids. No, I didn't. I was I briefly sold what I was told was speed at the time. I briefly for this
You were a
French
drug
girl,
dealer.
I was, but I don't even know if it was speed. I'm not sure. They were pink and white pills, and they were written on them was Magnum 357, which I know is a type of gun.
Right.
But I still don't know to this day what they were.
Gotcha.
But I worked.
They could
for
have been
this,
really high-end vitamins for all
yeah,
you know.
I don't know. It could have been no-dose, off-brand no-dose. So there were two girls, myself, and I'm not a snitch. I'm not going to name anyone,
No,
but we worked
snitches
for
get stitches.
Yeah, we worked for a young French lady who was a junior, I think, and she
was the ringleader?
She was the ringleader, and she also, I remember her, I thought she looked 45 years old in high school. She wore like couture leather clothes.
Wow.
And just seemed so...
Did she have like a cigarette holder and an eye patch or something?
No,
She's like a Bond villain.
Pretty much. Everything except the eye patch. I mean, she had real jewelry, gold, and she smoked, and I just wanted to be cool and liked, so I tried.
She sold a little speed. Who has
Tried doing that briefly. My parents never found out about that, and I wasn't busted for it. My grades were so bad that I was asked to leave, and so I went to the public high school for half a year and begged my parents to send me back to girls' school. My mom had graduated from a girls' boarding school in Dobbs Ferry, New York, called the Masters School. I begged them to send me there, and lucky for me, they cobbled together money, and I think asked my grandparents for help, and because they were teachers. And the last 2 years of high school, I was at a girls' boarding school in upstate New York. So I really appreciated single-sex education, but it was just Middlesex, where my mom and dad were teachers. It just wasn't the right place for me, and you can't.
Right.
There's no way to know. Kids need to be in the right environment for them, and that just wasn't the right environment for me. So it was no one's fault.
What was it about the social dynamic of single-sex education that you think worked for you? Did you find the boys distracting? Or?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't distracted by boys because they weren't distracted by me. Certainly, I braces and a parachute jacket and Ralph Macchio hair. It wasn't like my hair wasn't as cool as yours. And on a 14-year-old, that's not nice. So no, it was that in a single sex, in my experience,
yes, in
an all-girls school, your value is not how popular you are with boys. It's not how pretty or skinny or rich you are. It's what do you provide the student body. So I was kind of artsy and odd, and I made my own clothes, and I would buy men's pants from Goodwill and turn them into jodhpurs. But I was just kind of a quirky, artsy kid, and that has a value, that has a place in single-sex education that in a co-ed world, you're just a loser. Right. You're just a weirdo. You're a freak.
And it's so easy always to see things through your own prism, but as a woman, as opposed to being a man, I bet that experience is completely different. I think for a guy, it's easier to sort of kind of be neutral and blended and not be too affected by the social status. Versus girls, you're right, I think are judged more harshly in that environment, and probably it would be easier to find out what's inside you if you're not constantly concerned about what you look like or what the boys think you look like or what other girls think you look like.
It's true. And also, think about it in this sense. Teenage girls are all of a sudden have this incredible power, which is withholding sex,
right,
or being sexy, and they're struggling to figure out what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, here all of a sudden I have boobs and I have to shave under my arms, and it's a staggeringly challenging time. Now, if you're surrounded by boys and you're trying to figure out what this power gets you, or and adult men are attracted to teenage girls. Like it's just fraught with this. You have a daughter. It's coming.
I know. It's funny. As we talk
you.
about this, everything is running through my mind through that filter of, oh my God, this is what I have to face soon. Yeah.
Well, you see teenage girls in there, in short shorts and a crop top and you just think, oh my God, what is ahead of you? It's terrifying. I'm not a mom. I don't have any kids. I see my friends' kids growing up, and it's just a difficult time. And now I don't even know with this whole social media thing and Twitter and Instagram and cyberbullying and pouty selfies. I can't even imagine. So.
I can't even put myself back in my own struggling adolescence and then compound it with what the social media aspect is, and even know how I would have functioned. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just made a challenging time that much more challenging, I think.
All right, on to happier stories. So you are a quirky clothes-making kid, and so you decide to go to Parsons, right? The School for Design?
Yeah, that was shame on me. That was really...
Why?
Well,
you obviously had an interest in fashion, you had an interest in design, and
True.
And that would be the place to go, right?
Yeah, but I feel bad about it now. We're all fine. My mom and dad and I are fine. We're very happy.
Good.
But I wanted to be in New York City, probably because of a Levi's 501. You know what I mean? That blue-tinted New York City of 1987,
Yes.
88. It just seemed
It was very romanticized.
I wanted to pursue acting, but I didn't have that would not have been accepted in my
Even
family.
then you knew you wanted to be an actress.
Oh, listen to this though. This is so I didn't tell my parents I wanted to pursue acting because that's just not seen as a career in any way. That
Okay,
was a
time
no.
out. Before we get there, at what point in your life as a kid do you realize this is what you want?
Oh, 5, 6.
Really? That early on?
Yeah. Always play acting and doing school plays and things like that. But I was also always taking, because my mom's an artist, I was always taking advanced art courses. And I did that the whole time I was in school. So I got into Parsons easily.
Right.
And decided to go, which really was wasting my parents' money. I mean, that's what I did. I had to pay my rent and my bills, and I hostessed and waitressed while I was going to Parsons. But I wanted to be in New York City to do other things, and I didn't have the courage to tell my parents.
Gotcha.
So I wasted their time and their money for a year, and I apologized. My first year at Parsons, I went around and I apologized to all my teachers. I said, this is not for me. Because my parents are teachers and I respect teachers.
Right.
I didn't want them to think, oh, I just don't, give a shit. Am I allowed to swear?
Oh, yes, please. We encourage it.
Oh, I already swear? I probably
hope so.
swore a lot already. Anyway.
Please do.
So I apologized to my teachers. I auditioned and got the part of Darlene in the play Hurly Burly that was being performed at Circle in the Square.
Wow.
Even though I wasn't going to NYU and that acting program. I lived in a welfare hotel, the George Washington Welfare Hotel on 23rd and Lexington. Dropped out of Parsons. And my parents said, if you aren't going to college, we're cutting you off. And I was like, okay. And I'm going to make it on my own. And I was already working and paying my bills. I didn't have to pay for college because I had dropped out.
Right.
I apologized for wasting their money because it's expensive. I didn't have a scholarship. It was expensive. I don't even want to know what they spent. But they came and saw, 3 months later, they came and saw me in Hurly Burly when the play was up, and they said, we'll meet tomorrow for breakfast. And they didn't say a word.
That sounds ominous.
I always say, yeah, and I was like, oh, I wanted to be good. I wanted to think I was good. Met them for breakfast. Dad said, you're great. You're a mother, and I think you were wonderful. And I'm sorry I never came and saw your school plays because I was working. And I was like, ugh, wanted to start crying. And they said, we will, if you want our support, we will support you if you. And I think it was something like they even suggested maybe I go to acting school, but I don't know. I rebelled. At 18 and said, I'm going to take care of myself.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. It ended up being a great thing for
Right.
me, but I always had a support system.
Right.
If I had gotten in trouble, I had a family to return to. So I did make my career and my life on my own, but I had a net in case anything went wrong. So
that makes all the difference, just having that in the back of your mind.
Yeah,
it gives you a lot of confidence and courage, I think.
Well, I think normally people who have to work. And I think we're in a tough time now where, if you go through college and you have loans that you have to pay back and you can't pay it back and you have to move in with mom and dad, I think it's just a tougher time.
Yeah.
I think it's just a tougher time right now. So I was very lucky for the time period that it was, that I was able to pay my $500 a month rent in the welfare hotel. It wasn't a dangerous welfare hotel. It wasn't. I had an 8 by 8 foot room, but it had its own private bathroom.
That's not too bad.
No, not bad at all in New York in 87, 88, $500 a month. Yeah. Now it turns out later, the rental company was housed in the welfare hotel. So when I went to the company to find an apartment, they said, "Oh, we have one here," and we went upstairs. Now that's illegal. So years later, I was told I was allowed to live rent-free in the George Washington for a year because they owed me that because there was some collusion or something with the office space.
How sweet is that?
Well, I didn't want to go back to the George Washington
Come
Welfare
on,
Hotel at
free,
that point.
that's free
I
rent.
should have taken it
Absolutely.
and leased it, but I didn't.
How long were you in New York?
I was in New York. I graduated high school in 87, and I was in New York until 93. And during that time, I was doing like student films. Never went to acting school in New York. I started dating a drummer. We moved in together. We put a band together, and I thought, oh, this is the way to do it. I'll be like Cher or Sting. I'll sing in a band, and then I'll just be so great that people will put me in movies, because I was really afraid to actually try to pursue acting, because what if I tried and didn't succeed?
Oh, wow.
So I kept doing these probably cowardly roundabout strikes towards creating a career in acting.
But even after Hurly Burly, you were just auditioning for everything? And
No.
Really?
No, I would look at the backstage magazine or something.
Yeah, Backstage,
I was trying to build a resume. I thought that's what you did. And I didn't want to ask. I couldn't afford acting school. I didn't want to go back to my parents and say, okay, will you pay for, I think I thought I was being punk rock, and I was gonna,
Right.
I knew enough, and I don't. So I just was sang in bands and performed and bartended the whole time. And then the drummer and I, we were not successful.
No.
Very democratic band. Mechanical Bride, that was our name.
Mechanical Bride.
Yeah, great band, great guys, but we were democratic, so that just doesn't work. I don't think that works in a band. There has to be one or two people who say, this is the direction. You can't have a 4-minute bass solo in every song. So we weren't very good. The drummer and I moved to San Francisco after we broke up the band in New York. We were supposed to, Mechanical Bride was going to open for the Sugar Cubes, but the band, we were fighting so bad, man, that we couldn't even be in the same room, and we broke up before we would have had, Sugar Cubes was where Bjork came from.
Sure, yeah.
So the drummer and I moved to San Francisco, which is where he was from originally, started to form a band there. I was bartending, and we broke up. I just was like, I don't want to be in a band, and I don't want to be with you anymore. And then I started going to acting school. I'd saved enough money bartending to pay for acting school in San Francisco. So I went to
go in San Francisco?
Gene Shelton's Actors Lab. And her sons, Chris, and I can't remember the other son's name. They were all teachers in this school. And it was, scene study, script analysis, doing scenes with partners, doing monologues.
All the basic stuff.
Yeah, all the basic stuff. And so I studied in San Francisco. I was doing the John Patrick Shanley show, 4 Dogs and a Bone. Oh, actually, that was later. Here's what happened. I was bartending, going to acting school, and there was a guy who hung out in my bar named Henry Maudlin, and he was a manager. And I was like, come on, manage me. You should manage me. And
how did you go from no confidence to all of a sudden this ballsy confidence
of
bothering a guy at your bar
yeah,
to be
I
your
don't
manager?
know. That I don't know. But I said, manage me. Still a comedy of errors. He said, okay. He handled correspondence, anchor people, hosts, on-air talent. So I went on 3 auditions. Auditioning to be a host, was sent, Fox, I did some audition up there in San Francisco where Fox sent me to LA to audition me, and Paramount auditioned me for a show called He Said, She Said. I was 25. And the Ricky Lake show had been a huge success for Fox and Garth Ancier and that whole group of people. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting a talk show deal with Westinghouse. So this
led to Paget.
The Paget show.
I've
Yeah.
seen episodes on YouTube.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
It lives on.
They're coming back.
It lives on.
They're sneaking
yeah.
back in.
When I was doing a little research for this, I was like,
No.
I'm going to check out a couple episodes of Paget and see what's up.
I mean, it's funny. I didn't know anything. That set was made out of drop cloths and loading pallets. No joke. Sincerely, loading pallets, spray painted blue. And we had an audience, but we did really well. We had a 150-person audience. We shot 65 shows. We
was
aired
late
it
night,
at
right?
1:30 in the morning on
Wow.
KPIX, the CBS station in San Francisco. And the ratings, I mean, what else is on at 1:30? like vacuum commercial ads. There's
You're
nothing.
competing with infomercials.
So our ratings were fabulous. So they started airing us again at 1 a.m. And meanwhile, I had gotten an agent in Los Angeles, and I went to NAPTE, the North American Producers Television, NATP, North American Television Production
NATP,
Expo, or
yeah.
whatever, in Vegas. That's where I met the agent, signed with him. He was with APA in Los Angeles. And
You're like the Oprah of San Francisco now. You've
a little
got your
bit.
own
No,
show.
it was wild. I mean, and I was still bartending because they wouldn't let me report my hours.
Oh, that's
They
so
were saying,
funny.
if you report how many hours you're working, because I was doing man on the street all day.
Sure.
For the 3 days we didn't shoot, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, man on the street or interviews with whomever. And then Thursday and Friday, we shot 3 shows per day.
With guests in studio.
With
that kind of
in-studio guests, the whole thing. Like the whole, there was this guy, Green. He was a polygamist from Utah. He had 9 wives. We had, why is my daughter covered in tattoos? We had, we did it all. We did all the,
the classics.
And it was fun, and I didn't know any better. I was doing audience warm-up. I was giving away a watch if someone had a great question. I mean, I didn't know. And I didn't know it was illegal for me not to be reporting my hours.
Right.
So
Was this a union gig or no?
it,
Do you know?
I mean, it was,
Oh, wow.
but...
Yeah. So they were really
Yeah, so I
screwing
was
with the ways.
I was still bartending at a place called Andy Boy's Drunk Tank on Market Street, which was like everyone who owned it was Irish, but all they played was Snoop Dogg and
random.
Metallica. Like the guys from Metallica hung out there. It was like a rock bar, but they played a lot of Snoop Dogg.
So fans
Yeah.
of Paget would come in and see you behind the bar.
Yeah.
And question their own sanity at that moment.
It
I
was,
guess.
no, everyone knew, and
Oh,
the owners,
really?
of course, made me play the show behind me
Oh, of
while I was
course.
bartending.
Yes.
So,
built-in celebrity.
but it was fun. It was really fun. I don't regret that at all. And I was
Why
really
would you? You
lucky.
had your own show at 25.
Yeah,
Who
it was
would
fun.
regret that?
It was really fun. So I got the agent, moved to LA in '96, and I went to his office at APA. Am I just talking too much? Should
No,
I
you
wait
kidding
for
me?
questions?
You're a dream.
Oh, okay.
If I got a question, I'll
Oh,
stop
good,
you.
good. Okay, great. My agent
Now, the agent is for broadcast?
for broadcast, and I said
like
to him, I
hosting
want to
kind of
act.
stuff?
I
Okay.
said, I want to act. He said, okay, when you move to Los Angeles, So I got my driver's license. I
It's
didn't know how to
ballsy
drive.
of you to throw away a burgeoning hosting career to act, because you
Yeah.
probably could have gone along that path, continued, and been the host of Access Hollywood or Entertainment Tonight or any one of
Maybe.
those shows.
And you know what?
and made a nice
I'll-
chunk of change.
I'll tell you what. I still think I'm probably, in my essence, a better host than I am an actress.
That's madness.
But because I'd told my parents I was going to make it, I didn't have the wherewithal to say, oh no, I really love this. I actually love doing this. Why don't I pursue this? I was holding on to, well, I left New York City and I got to get back to New York City because New York City is the center of the universe and no other city counts. You get indoctrinated in New York to believe that if you move, your tail between the legs. And
Right.
it still was in my head after a few years in San Francisco. I thought, okay, well now I'll move to LA and I'll start acting, and then I can move back to New York and I'll be a real New Yorker, and I'll do movies and off Broadway. So I get to LA, I go to see my agent at APA, and he's acting shifty in his office. And now I've just moved to Los Angeles. I've saved $2,000. And
Which ain't much in this town.
no, but in '96 it was
Well, I
still
guess
better.
so. Yeah.
I rented an apartment in like a Romanian mafia building on Poinsettia between Sunset and between Hollywood and
Franklin?
No. It's like by the Rock and Roll Ralph's, and there used to be a Denny's there where all the prostitution stings were.
Yeah, yes.
It was right there in the middle of that part of Hollywood,
Yeah.
you know.
Sunset and between Sunset.
It was like Sunset and
Fountain,
Poinsettia.
maybe.
Yeah, that's what it was, between Sunset and Fountain. Yeah. So he's acting strange, and I say, you know, what's going on? And he said, well, I just signed with the United Talent Agency, and I'm leaving this agency today. And I said, I will take all of your stuff, but you have to take me with you. Because he was worried about how to get, this was when you still had files. He didn't know how to get everyone's headshots and bios and everything out of his office. So I said, I'll take it right now. You tell me where to go. I'll get it. I'll put it in my Volvo and I'll meet you over there. But you take me with you. And he said, I'm only taking 4 clients. And I was like, okay, all right. If I'm not one of them, then I'm not helping you. And he was like, okay. He said, I'm taking you. Yeah. So he said, I'm taking you. So his assistant put all these files in my Volvo. I drove it over to UTA, parked in the basement down there and waited. He brought all the files in. Now, 2 days later, the agent who had hired my agent, the agent who poached, my agent was Chris. Gavin Pallone poached Chris from APA. Gavin Pallone then is faced with some sexual harassment lawsuit that gets him booted out of UTA. Oh. So now my little baby fish agent at UTA
has no godfather over there.
Has 5 clients, me included, that he's kept with him. I start going on general meetings with casting people at NBC and ABC. I am nothing. I've done 65 episodes of a late night talk show in San Francisco. And I meet with the casting lady at NBC just for a general, and she says, hey, let's read the scene together. And it was for a show called Just Shoot Me. I said, okay, and we read the scene together. She says, hold on, stay here. And she runs down the hall. She comes back she's like, Helen needs to see this. We do the scene again. They say, okay, follow us in the car. We're going down, get your car. I go get my car. I've never driven on a freeway. I've had my license for 2 weeks. I have to follow them to Radford from that NBC where Carson used to do the Tonight Show. That
in
NBC,
Burbank.
Yeah. So for some reason we had to get on the freeway. Now it doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, you get on the 134. You get on the 134 from Burbank to get off here in Studio City.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm following them and I'm bawling. I'm screaming with fear. And thank God I had a Volvo. I at least was smart. That fucking car was the best. I want another one of those. That car was beautiful.
And they're bulletproof, too.
1989 Volvo sedan. Oh, so I'm crying. We pull in to Radford. They say, come on. You're going to do that scene again. We go into an office. This is like my 4th day meeting anyone. I've been in LA for a week or 2. I go in and Laura San Giacomo is there, and I do the scene with her, and there's 15 people in the room. We finish. Thank you. I walk out, and I go to get to my car. I have a pager. No one had phones. I go to my car, and an assistant runs out and says, no, wait, come back. You have to sign this thing. You have to sign this thing. And I was like, sign what thing? And she said, you have to sign the contract. I was like, I don't, there's no contract. So I said, can I use your phone? And I use her phone to call my agent. I said, they want me to sign this thing. I think I might have a job. And he says, get in your car and get the fuck out of there. I was like, no. You don't understand. I went from there to here, and I just read a scene with Laura San Giacomo from Pretty Woman. And I think they want me in this TV show, and maybe I'll get in your fucking car and leave now. Oh.
Wow.
I go out to the car. The assistant runs after me again. I said, I'm sorry, I have to leave. I have to leave right now. I drive away. This is what Chris does to cover his ass at UTA, which no agent could get away with now. He tells the people at NBC, call Chris and say, why did your client leave? She read a scene. She tested without signing. And Chris said, she can't test for you. She's got a development deal with ABC. Lie.
Oh, no.
NBC says, we need a meeting with her tomorrow morning. She's going to meet Warren Littlefield. The next day I meet Les Moonves. The next day I met, the ABC, Fox. It was that guy, Peter Roth at Fox. I had meetings because he lied. And nobody knew any better. They were like, who is this? Who is this that we've never heard of? She's not at the comedy festivals. And ABC just offered her a deal. So
they don't want to miss out on
they don't
getting
want
a
to miss out.
piece
So
of the next big
NBC
thing.
offers me a deal. Then ABC offers me it. I'm nobody.
This is one of those show business stories.
That's what that agent did.
Wow.
Because
he's a lying no good.
Brilliant. Are you kidding? He's he's an animal. And also he's out. He's not in the business anymore. He started the whole thing of like putting the Pepsi logo on the Challenger. He probably owns Nantucket now. I mean, he just
Genius.
had that brain.
Yeah.
So that was incredibly lucky.
So you're getting all these offers from all these networks.
I signed with Fox, a 1-year development deal. I shoot a pilot. It doesn't go. They asked me to stay another year. I stay another year. And this was when a lot of people were getting development deals, but they were stand-ups. They were writers. They were people with like road experience.
Or at least
like
a character developed on stage that they could wrap something around.
I was nothing. I just had like
needed a creator or a
sizzle
script.
reel from Man on the Street interviews. So
And Fox was like a baby network at this time.
It was,
really.
yeah,
It
it
wasn't
was.
as big a player as the other three.
no, all they had was Cops and
Married
The
with
Simpsons
Children.
and Married with Children. Yeah. So meanwhile, I went and saw the tapings of everything. I went to every single sitcom being shot at the time, and I would go to the Paley Museum, and watch
the Paley
pilots,
Center.
the pilots for Cheers, the pilots for Gilligan's Island, I was just watching pilots of everything ever made, and auditioning all the time. And my second year at Fox, I signed for another year. My agent said, okay, she'll sign another year at Fox, but she has to be able to work on other shows until she gets a show that goes.
Smart.
So that she can get experience. They said, okay. So then I auditioned for Friends and was on Friends for 6 episodes, and that sort of started.
Let's not jump over that, because that may be the first place a lot of people saw you was as Kathy in that arc, and you were the girl who got between Chandler and Joey.
Right.
And made a lot of people very upset with you.
Yes.
You were a bad girl.
Kind of.
You are not. See, these stories blow me away. So you're being pursued by all these networks. You get a deal with Fox, and then you land on the hottest comedy on television.
Yeah, on NBC.
People who weren't. If you've only seen Friends in reruns or you weren't there at the time, you don't recognize the social pop culture phenomenon that Friends was.
Yeah, and this was year 4. This was the height of their. They had been from. I mean, Courtney Cox was kind of a little bit known as the chick in the Bruce Springsteen video, but really they experienced an enormous change in their lives.
Oh yeah, it was like the Beatles.
3 years.
Yes.
I mean, it was crazy.
And then you're jumping on that moving train.
Yeah.
Which must have been. I think I always wonder about. I put myself in that situation, and I would have been anxious. I would have been intimidated. I would have been scared to death, I think, jumping into something that was that white hot.
I was very scared.
Being the guest in there, and they've got a family, and you're just showing up, and you have to be an equal in order to deliver. You have to be on the same playing field as those people. And that's intimidating, I would think.
It was, but they were incredibly welcoming.
Oh,
I mean, they really, honestly, the only person I didn't spend any time with was Schwimmer, only because Schwimmer was, for the 6 weeks I was there, he was locked in a heated competition fighting his assistant on GoldenEye, that video game. So he didn't hang out with any, but they asked me to lunch. I spent time with all of them. They were all very welcoming, and it was also an extremely difficult time for them because, first of all, Jennifer Aniston had apparently an extremely violent stalker. No one at the show told me this. The security guys told me that.
Wow.
They said, you be careful over there. And I was like, Jesus. Well, also, Lisa Kudrow was pregnant. And it was before the end of her 3rd trimester. And her gynecologist or someone in her gynecologist's office had leaked the news to some entertainment reporter, and Lisa came in bawling that she hadn't told her family. She hadn't told anyone.
Oh, no.
And they were now going to run this story. And so she was going to go over to Entertainment Tonight and happily announce because she had to get out in front of it. That's just devastating. You know, they were a very close-knit, it was almost like a tribe of monkeys, those guys. That cast was really tight, and they'd just been through the ringer together. And they genuinely took care of each other and loved each other. And it was really something to see. It was really an extraordinary... And Matthew Perry had just gotten out of rehab for Vicodin, and that's why my character was created, because they wanted to create a storyline for Matthew, or he asked for it, where he could do more physical comedy and show that he was okay because he'd just gotten out of rehab. So it was a fraught time for them, and they were nothing but kind and welcoming and lovely. I mean, I don't know many shows now that are that inclusive and kind to a stranger coming in.
In retrospect, maybe it was refreshing for them to have somebody on the set that wasn't one of them, and they were able to engage, with someone new and get some new blood in there.
I don't know. I think they were all, I think they were all lovely people, though. It was really, I was lucky.
Can you recount the story about your hairdo in that episode?
Oh, yeah. So, all right. So this guy, I want to say Chris McMillan, but I don't even know if that's the guy who did it. There was a guy who became famous, the hairdresser on Friends, because he had done the Rachel.
Right.
And everybody wanted the Rachel. And he became like a cultural, celebrity. Like, that's a big deal for a hairdresser on a show to he made the haircut. Like, there hadn't been anything like that since the Dorothy Hamill, which, that was no winner either. But he...
Or the Farrah. There was the Farrah.
The Farrah was a good one. The Farrah holds up. Well, so I came in, we were rehearsing for the first show. You rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you pre-shoot Thursday and you shoot the show Friday night. Tuesday, he decided, I had black bangs and a bob, like Louise Brooks, a black bob. And at the time, so did Courtney Cox. So that hairdresser on a Tuesday said, I'm going to take it all off and dye it red. So he cut it shorter and he dyed it red. And it took 6 or 7 hours to leach out. I've been dyeing my hair since I was 15. To pull out all the black and dye it red. At the end of the day on Tuesday, we do the run-through for David Crane, Marta Kaufman, and Kevin Bright, the producers of the show. They're there. I walk in to do where I appear in the first scene that I show up in, and Kevin goes, "What? Wait, what? What happened?" And I'm looking at him, and he says, "Get so-and-so out here right now." Calls the hairdresser out, and he said, "What the fuck did you do?" And he said, "Well, she looked too much like Courtney, so I cut it and I dyed it red." And Kevin Bright yells, "I hired her because she had a black bob." And I just kind of died inside, and I turned, and I just they were in a heated discussion, and I just thought, well, I guess I'm not rehearsing anymore. And I went up to my room, and I had a couple of fashion magazines I put in my little bag, probably like a paper Mayfair bag, to drive home in my 89 Volvo.
You're done.
Yeah, and I hear thump, 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 and Kevin comes in, closes the door behind him, and looks at me and says, "I didn't hire you because of your black bob." And I said, "Am I fired?" And he said, "No, you're not fired. I just can't have them making decisions like this without talking to me." Oh. And I was like, "Oh, so I can still be Kathy?" And he was like, "Yes, you're Kathy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to freak you out." And I was like, "Oh, okay.
So
thank
funny.
you." I thought, that's it. This is my big shot, and it's gone.
Right.
And that ended up, I did 3 episodes, and then they wanted 1 more, and then they wanted 2 more, and it just became, and that feels really good.
Sure.
When they're like, "Oh, we like what you did. Let's put you in another one." I still get residuals from Friends. That's a crazy gig.
Oh, can you imagine how much money they have?
I kind of think I can. I've
Weren't
seen
they
a couple
making
of their
$1
houses.
million per at the end? Wasn't that what they were?
$1 million per at the end,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's really the royalties, because it's kind of like Seinfeld. It's played all day, every
Several
day,
times a day,
all over the
everywhere.
world.
Yeah.
So yeah, that money adds up.
Did that make an impact on your career as well? Did the offers start rolling in, or were you still signed with Fox at the time in development?
I was still signed with Fox, and
Is that how Andy Richter happened? through Fox?
No, actually, that was not a development deal. That was a couple years later.
Because that was Fox, right?
That was Fox. Yeah, that was Victor Fresco. Andy Richter Controls the Universe.
I loved that show.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that didn't.
Oh, I know, it was a fun show.
Yeah.
I had done a show previously with Victor Fresco, the showrunner, called People Who Fear People, with John Cryer, and David Krumholtz and Campbell. Oh my God, what's his blonde guy? He was on According to Jim. Anyway, just
I know just
Brad Rader, great bunch of people. So that show, we did 13 episodes. And that was canceled before all 13 aired. I mean, we shot 13, but I think we were canceled in 4 or 5 or something. And the next year, I knew Andy Richter through friends from New York. And Victor Fresco called me and said, hey, Fox wants to set me up on a meeting with Andy Richter. You know him, right? Is he cool? And I was like, he's great. You guys should meet. I think you'd get each other. You should meet. And Andy called me and said, hey, you worked with this guy, Victor. Do you think we should? And I said, absolutely do it. He's great. So they get together. They write the pilot. They're casting the pilot. And I was doing some other show, and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what that show. I was doing a pilot. They cast a young lady who's great, by the way. And then when they picked up the pilot, they let her go. My pilot didn't go. I auditioned. I went to network 3 times. Fox was flying chicks in from New York, and I would put on a new dress and my highest heels and my push-up bra and go in there and kept trying to get that part. And then they finally gave me the part of what was my character? Jessica? No, what was my character?
Wasn't it Jessica?
Was it? What was my
That's how you know you've had too many roles.
That's nice. I know. I feel really good. Hold
names.
on. I feel really fancy right now. And I think we did 18 episodes of Andy Richter. We did 2 mid-seasons, 2 half seasons, like the back 9, I think, mid-season for Fox. So it was like we started airing in January or February or March.
Yeah.
We did 2, and then we're...
Such a fun show. I really liked it.
It was fun to do. Thanks, Ralph.
No, my pleasure. Can we jump over to the feature film side for just a minute?
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge fan of this film, and because I'm a giant nerd and comic book geek, but The Specials for me is one of my favorites.
I'm so glad you like that movie.
I love that film.
I do,
and
too.
I had a chance to meet James Gunn once, and I it was funny because he was a huge fan of a show I did called The Joe Schmo Show, which was a parody of reality television.
Oh, my God, Ralph.
Where we fooled a guy into thinking he was on a reality show.
And the pearl necklace.
Yes.
Oh, my God. I didn't even put together that was you.
That was season 2. Season 1, we threw the plates into the fireplace.
Oh, my God, Ralph. Oh, my God. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I didn't realize that was you.
And so
you're so good. I mean, I know you're so good, but I cannot believe I didn't put that together.
Yeah. So James was a big fan of that show, and I grilled him. He wanted to talk about Joe Schmo, and all I grilled him about was The Specials. Because
that show is
favorites.
Great,
Oh,
Ralph. You were great.
Thank you so much. But you were great as Ms. Indestructible in The Specials, which I think it was before its time, obviously. Had it come out a few years later, after the success of Iron Man and the whole comic book movie thing would have been just ripe for a parody, that film would have been, I think, seen by a lot more people than it was.
It definitely was ahead of its time, but also we got boned by the simultaneous release of the big budget failed superhero.
Did Mystery Man come at the same time?
Yes, at the exact same time.
Oh, well, there you go.
And that had Janine Garofalo and Hank Azaria and
Ben Stiller.
and that was a whole big. So when that didn't do as well at the box office as they thought, we were a footnote. We were out. No, because
they're very different films.
They're very different, but it's like,
yeah, I know.
How does that happen?
If you're selling it,
yeah. So, and also, Rob Lowe, with whom I've done another movie, and I see him around all the time.
Right.
He had just gotten West Wing, and I think his agents were saying to him, "Don't you fucking promote this nerdy sci-fi movie, and he was the biggest star in our film. We had
Thomas
Jamie
Hayden Church.
Kennedy and Thomas Hayden Church, but really Rob Lowe was the big. There was no budget for that film until Rob Lowe signed on, and then they got their foreign money, and that's how the movie was able to be made. Because James Gunn wrote it, Craig Mazin directed it. Sean Gunn was in it.
Right.
Judy Greer. It was a great. I love that film, and I thought, and I'm so proud of it, and I love that you love it, and I wish that it had the opportunity to find the audience that you're right, I think would appreciate it now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you are someone who's had a long history in comedy, sitcoms, and things like that, and yet your greatest success, much like Rob Lowe, when you talk about making that transition with The West Wing, your biggest success has come with the procedural drama, which is strange, really.
It is.
Because comedy seems to me to be your milieu. That seems to be the kind of thing you dig the most, right? Or am I reading that wrong?
No, you know what? I love them both. Here's what happened with that. I love comedy, and I still do as much as I can, as far as like live shows or friends podcasts, or I was on another period of comedy on Comedy Central the past 3 years, and did the Thrilling Adventure Hour for 11 years with all of those brilliant comedic actors and actresses at Largo. I thought I had done sitcoms, a lot of sitcoms, and then that world really got small.
That's true. It did kind of go out of style for a while.
They went out of style, and in 2003, before Criminal Minds, I got a show called Huff for Showtime with Hank Azaria and Oliver Platt, Blythe Danner, Anton Yelchin, and Swoosie Kurtz played my mom. That was 2 seasons at Showtime, and that was all tough. That was my marriage was falling apart. I was crying a lot. My mom's got cancer. My kid is a mess and might be torturing animals. Like, that was my first doing drama.
Right.
And it was a great experience, but it was rough. And when that show was not picked up for the 3rd season, I told my agents, well, real actors do movies. I'm just going to do movies. That's what you're supposed to do. If you're a real actor, you do movies. I did 4 movies, 2 of them at the same time, back to back, and then 2 at the same time, and hated it. I mean, nothing against those movies. It just...
The process you didn't like?
The process. I was living in a hotel room. It's lonely. You're doing your laundry in the bathtub. There's no, you're there with people for a month or 2 months, and then it's poof, gone.
Yeah.
And that to me felt incredibly lonely. So I was shooting my 4th movie in Vancouver, and I called my agents. By now, Chris, my first agent, he's a billionaire. He's in Long Island, who knows what. Still at UTA, though.
Oh, really?
I can't leave. I'm too loyal. That's
so for you.
Same agency. I called them and said, I was wrong. I hate making movies. I don't want to do this. I want to be on a TV show. I had it right the first time. I want to report to work with the same people every day in Los Angeles, preferably. But, if there's something in Georgia, I'll do that.
And the hours, too, when you're making a film versus television are very different as well.
Not for a procedural.
Oh, yeah, I guess not. Yeah,
no.
right.
Procedural are the worst.
I'm just saying compared to
hours.
what you were used to doing sitcoms.
Oh,
and stuff
sitcom
like
is
that.
like, please.
Yeah.
That's...
You jump into features and you're doing 12-hour days versus
Right.
a sitcom. It's a very different
Totally
dynamic.
different thing. You're right, yes. Yeah. Movies are, and night shoots, and stunts, and, just...
A lot more waiting around.
It's just a lot.
Than shooting.
Yeah, and it wasn't what I liked. Now, unfortunately, every sitcom I've tried to get on hasn't. It just, I haven't found that. That life is fantastic. And I love being in front of a live audience with your crew and your guys. But when I told my agents I need to be on a TV show, I can't stand this anymore, they said, okay, when you're back, we'll set up meetings. They called the next day and they said, hey, there's this show. It's on the air now called Criminal Minds that wants to meet with you. And I said, great. And I had been watching the pilot episode of Criminal Minds the day I called them and said I want to be on a TV show. Because I remember that hotel room and seeing the unsub holding the Datsun Z28 Z key, and Criminal Minds is playing silently in the background while I'm telling my agents I want to be on a TV show, which I just thought was so strange. So I went and met with Mark Gordon and Ed, Simon, the people who, Ed Bernero and Simon Mirren and Mark Gordon produces it, and met with them about joining the cast of Criminal Minds. And I was one of those people that I read all of that stuff. I watched all those shows. I knew way too much. So they said, oh, we're doing this one case about this guy, and he's got a trailer in his New Mexico compound. And I said, oh, you're talking about the Toy Box Killer. And they all shut up and were a little disgusted. And they said, what do you mean? And I can't remember his name now. It was like, so you're talking about David Swans or what? I can't remember his name now. The Toy Box Killer. And they went, yeah, how do you know about that? And I was like, oh, well, I saw the interview with the
So you're a true crime
doctor.
fan to begin with.
Now I get it enough. Now I got enough. Now I don't pursue it. But at the time, I think it's sort of how I got that job.
Wow.
Was because I was very familiar with all of that. And I had a roommate in New York who had dirt from Ed Gein's grave. Like, I just knew all that stuff. And so I was super excited to join that show. And those hours are the worst. Those hours are by far the worst. And then Mandy left, the next year. And it's a crazy roller coaster of a show.
Yeah, that was kind of a tempestuous ride for you because you got on and everybody loved your character and things went well, and then they started making cuts. They let some people go for what at the time was said budgetary reasons. I won't press you for the behind the scenes answers, but they let you and AJ go, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And then the fans bitched and they wanted you back, and they brought you back for another year.
Right.
And then you decided that you were going to leave, that you were going to pursue some other things.
Yeah. It was I'm embarrassed to say it took me a long time to get over the rage I felt at being fired and the rage that AJ was fired, because it was there. I loved it there. I loved that job. I loved everyone there. I had a great time. And we shot a spin-off inside one of our episodes. We shot a spin-off for another series called Criminal Minds Beyond Borders was the one with Gary Sinise a couple years ago. This was called Suspect Behavior. Criminal Minds Suspect Behavior was the first spin-off with Forrest Whitaker, Janine Garofalo, what's his name? He's in Bo Garrett. He's in House of Cards. Matt Kelly. Anyway, their spin-off was inside an episode of Criminal Minds' original recipe. And we went and shot in San Francisco, and it cost a fortune. And we all kind of figured it's the first time CBS looked at the show in 4 years, 5 years. And we just were told that the edict came down, fire the women.
Wow.
And it was upsetting, and
sure.
and we were also being paid so much less than all of the men. That's still the case. The men were sent on international press tours, first class, all year. No woman ever went. It was a very unequal place,
right?
Until recently,
right?
So
you
it
were
was
harboring
hard not
bad
to
feelings
be angry.
even when you went back initially.
Well, I didn't have a choice.
You still had a contract.
I was fired. AJ was fired. AJ was gone. My agent negotiated for me to do as many episodes as possible, just as a cash grab.
Gotcha. Until
it was over. Now, while I was there negotiating to keep doing episodes, the fan outcry started, and they and CBS said, "Hey, we changed our mind. You can stay." And I was like, "Nuh-uh." And and so I signed for 17 episodes, and then said to the writers, "Kill me, kill my character, give everyone something to react to." They said, "Okay." And the end came. Those guys kept shooting the show, and I shot a pilot, and it didn't go. And then it was announced on Deadline that I was returning to Criminal Minds. And I called my agent and said, "What are you talking about returning to Criminal Minds?" They fired me, and they said, "Oh, when we negotiated your 17 episodes, they added another year." And I was like, "Oh, man, I still don't know to this day if I missed that part of the phone call or if I knew it." But I was still, honestly, I really was angry. I was so angry that it took a lot to get over. And I was like, okay. I don't hate anyone at Criminal Minds. I just hate CBS. I can do this, and this is great. I have a job for another year. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And had to and I was lucky. I was lucky to be able to do another year.
Right.
But I couldn't get over how unfair it felt to me. And once you feel the poison,
oh sure,
it colors everything. So as the season came to an end, I said, I just can't do it. I can't come back. And they said, okay. And then my character left and went to run Interpol, and I left and did other shows. And over the 4 years that I was not on Criminal Minds, they always asked, "Hey, will you come guest?" And I did here and there. And they asked me to come back, and I just kept saying, "No, I'm not going to do it." And 2 years ago, I was there to guest. I was going to guest on 6 episodes. I thought, okay, first of all, being on Criminal Minds is what I'm most known for. And it was 4 years of mostly women coming up to me in the airport or the supermarket or the shoe store and saying, "Why did you leave? Why did you leave?" And being, and that that takes its toll. I'm not going to
wear you down.
It does. And then you start thinking, fuck, why did I leave? What am I doing? So I agreed to guest star for 6 episodes. And while I was there, this incident happened with Thomas Gibson, had an altercation with Virgil Williams, and Thomas was let go, and CBS and Mark Gordon and ABC, and I mean, Criminal Minds is owned by 16 corporations. They said, "Will you stay?" And I negotiate, "Oh, yeah, okay, I will." This is, basically what our showrunner wrote in the episode where my character comes back is, if you don't come back, someone else is going to come in here, and we don't know if that someone else is going to be an asshole. So why don't you stay here? And I thought, well, that's profound. These people are all my friends. I see them all the time anyway.
Right.
All right. Good idea. So I did. I signed for 3 years, and this coming year will be the end of that 3-year deal. Now, right now, we're only picked up for 15 episodes.
Oh, really?
So I don't know. Honestly,
it's still a ratings juggernaut, though.
I think so. I mean,
yes,
no, not really, because we did take a profound hit. The fans were very upset when Thomas was let go. And they were very upset when Shamar Moore left, even though he's doing exactly what he wants to do. He's on SWAT. He's number 1 on the call sheet. That's all he ever cared about. That's what he would always say.
Right.
He's hilarious. He wanted to be a big action star, and he is. And his show, SWAT, does great.
Yeah.
So the CBS moved us to 10 p.m. instead of 9 p.m. So we did lose. You're going to lose millions of viewers going an hour later.
Gotcha.
Because that's millions of people who need to go to bed because they have jobs and they got to get up early. So the ratings are down from what they were last year, but that's a time change difference.
I still think you're in the top 10 every time I look.
Maybe. I'm
CBS
not sure.
Anyway. CBS owns the top 10 in terms of broadcast television.
Maybe.
It's all Blue Bloods and NCIS and you guys.
NCIS, and Big Bang. And See, listen, they are good at television.
Yes.
CBS is whatever I may not like Les Moonves for, because I still, I know I shouldn't have a chip on my shoulder, because I do love my job, and I did get my job back, and for the first time in 7 years got a raise. So I do appreciate you, Les, and he's brilliant.
Yes.
He's a brilliant. What is that job? President, marketer, what
Right.
is that? I couldn't.
And he sold off all of his radio stations, which led to me getting fired. So
Really?
I've got my own
You got
bone to
fired
pick with him.
too?
Yes, yeah. So,
I'm so sorry.
CBS has done me no favors as well. So
And
I
it
can appreciate
hurts.
that.
I mean,
it
have you talked about this?
Oh,
here?
yes, many times. I was let go for primarily the same reason from K-Rock, the radio station that you were let go initially from Criminal Minds, which is someone looked at the bottom line and said, well, get rid of the third guy. We don't need him. His name's not on the show. It's the Kevin and Bean show.
Right.
How can talks about Ralph. Get rid of him.
What can we cut out of this?
Right. So that's the story anyway they gave me when they let me go. So I believe that to be true.
It hurts.
It sucks. And you're right. It does take a long time to get over those bad feelings. And it bleeds over into even the good stuff, that the memories that you have of those experiences sometimes get colored by the rage that you can carry around. And it takes a while to work through it. But,
I mean, Conan O'Brien went through it.
Yeah,
he
for sure.
was enraged for a couple of years.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
He got fucked.
It hurts. It really hurts. I'm not saying I understand people getting fired and going back and shooting the place up.
No, that's madness.
But I understand that it's also, you're so hurt. It's more empowering to feel anger than to feel hurt.
Right.
So you end up...
Because anger's active.
Yeah.
And hurt is passive.
You end up angry.
Yeah. The good news for that little sabbatical you took in the middle of your Criminal Minds career was one of my favorite comedies that did not last very long, but my wife and I would sit down every week to watch Grandfather.
Oh,
We loved that show.
Thanks.
Because both of us came from a service background. She worked in restaurants. I was a bartender and waiter all my years as a failed actor. So that was like a common background that we had in terms of like a great place setting for a comedy. And then Stamos was great, and you were adorable, and that was just such a fun show.
That was fun. That
did not last, sadly. Everything I like does not last, it seems
I was
like.
surprised, honestly, because I thought we were doing okay. You know, it was sort of this, they put Grandfathered with The Grinder,
Yeah,
the Rob
right.
Lowe show. So Stamos and Rob Lowe, and I thought we were both doing pretty well. I was surprised by that. But again, I couldn't, there's no way for me to understand any decisions made in network or business. Or that's just not what I do. I don't know.
And it makes you nuts if you try to focus on it or worry about it. You just have to show up, know your lines, and do what you do, right?
Yeah, just be thankful while it's happening. And try not to, don't go as high as the highs and don't go as low as the lows, I guess. You know what I mean? Just try to keep yourself and have fun.
and it's funny because you talk about, when I hear you talk about yourself as an angry young girl, you know, with the punk rock attitude and doing that stuff, it is, you can only have those feelings when you're young, when you have the luxury of just being all consumed with your career and what your things are going to be and what you're going to do and how you're going to beat the world and what you're going to accomplish. Because you reach a certain age in life, when you get married and you've got other things in your life that matter, you can't be all consumed with your career all the time, or I think you just burn out. You become a shell of a person. You have to develop other things that you're interested in.
Well, I think
take that place,
if you're healthy.
Yeah, that's ideally that's what I'm shooting for.
I would hazard to guess that you and I are healthier. That personally, I think really, really famous people, that is an active, endless, all-absorbing quest.
You're right, yes.
That's that many interviews and wardrobe changes and photo shoots and awards shows and charity events and red carpets and work and work and work. I think I would be willing to guess that Jennifer Lopez, talented and beautiful as she is, has a hole in her soul that will never be filled.
It has to be in order to work that hard all the time.
Yeah.
When you get up in the morning, the first thing on your mind has to be, what can I do to make myself bigger, whatever that next step is.
Yeah,
right?
and I just don't have that.
I don't either. Maybe I'm just lazy.
You know what? If we are, that's not so bad.
No.
I
I'd
mean,
like to enjoy life a
you
little
have
bit.
family and friends, and
Yes.
I think we're doing it right, actually.
I hope so. I don't want to let you go without talking about your voice work.
Oh.
Because a lot of people, I don't know if they appreciate it or not, but being a voice actor myself, I always am fascinated by really good voice actors, and you're one of them.
Am I?
Do you enjoy that process? Do you enjoy doing animation and that kind of stuff?
I do. I love it.
Because I love that too.
I
think it's
love
great.
it.
It's all the best parts of acting without the makeup and the hairstyles and the wardrobe. And all
It's
that
true
stuff.
because it's actually pure acting.
Yes.
I mean,
You can be any age, any size, any shape, and it doesn't. What you look like is irrelevant.
And the other thing though is your emotion. If I can't see, they say, what is it? 80% of communication is nonverbal, right? So if I'm looking at you and you're saying something, I'm still gauging your face, your posture, but with a voice, you have to be absolutely pure because it has to be heard.
Yep.
Then later, it's animated. So all of the acting has to be so genuine. You can't get away with looking cute or looking pouty or looking tough. You have to hear it in the voice, and that's really challenging and really exciting, and it feels so good when you learn how to access that and give into it, because you have to be kind of fearless. You're going to look stupid.
Yes.
And at some point, production is going to film you doing that voice.
For the
And
DVD extras.
You're going to look like shit. Unless you're Salma Hayek and you spent 2 hours in the chair before they shot DVD roll for Puss in Boots, you're going to look like a piece of shit.
You're right, yes.
But
you'll be flailing your arms and looking like a maniac.
Pretending to jog, like pretending to eat. You look like an idiot. But it's the greatest job.
It's so much fun.
It's so great.
Venture Brothers, King of the Hill, American Dad, Harvey Birdman, Bird Girl. Your work as Bird Girl was so good.
We just recorded the movie.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, there is a 2-hour Harvey Birdman movie coming out.
That makes me so happy. Yay. That's awesome. And the geek in me again, you got to play 3 classic DC Comics women in various roles. You got to play Lana Lang, Poison Ivy just recently in the new Harley Quinn Batman movie, which is very funny, and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you in the specials back in 2000 saying, that is what Lois Lane should be. That woman. You should have played, at some point in your career, you should have played Lois Lane. You would have been the perfect Lois Lane.
Oh, wow. Thanks. I'm so happy to be included in that group of people.
Yeah. And then Thrilling Adventure Hour, speaking of voice acting, you and Paul F. Tompkins, boy, how funny. Just great stuff. Sadly, it's no longer with us, but can people still go find it someplace?
The podcasts are still all up there, out there somewhere. Yeah.
Just a great tribute to the golden days of radio, sort of a spoof, but at the same time, like as good as any of that stuff ever was. Just so funny and well done. And
look into Acker and Blacker's Thrilling Adventure Hour.
Yeah, go find that, people, and listen to it and love it. And before you go, and before I throw you out of my house.
Your beautiful house. So jealous.
I heard a story, and I want to see if this is true or not, that Hugh Hefner contacted you personally about appearing in his magazine Playboy. Is that true?
That is true. This was a while ago. I was
Well, he's been
invited.
dead for a while, so I assumed that.
Yeah, this was, I don't know what year this was. I was on Huff, and the girls... Huff's girlfriends at the time watched Huff.
Oh.
So I went up to the mansion twice as a guest and received, after I had been
Before
up there...
we get any further, what's your impression? Because I've been to the mansion. I used to work for Playboy. One of my first TV gigs was a show on Playboy TV. And they used to have us up to the mansion sometimes for just corporate stuff and to hang out and everything. And... although I tried to think I was cooler than that, when I got there, I was kind of impressed by the mansion.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, and the lifestyle and everything. I was like, maybe it's because I just grew up around it and I always had this fantasy about what Hefner's life was like. But I remember getting there saying, he's got his own zoo and the grotto and everything. Yeah. It was kind of everything that I expected it to be.
Yeah, I loved it. And also, here's something that a lot of people did not know about the Playboy Mansion is or the way it was when Hef was there.
Yeah.
It was 100% pro-female. No women were being grabbed or molested or pushed around.
No.
There were security that would show up the second someone touched a girl's arm. Security was there.
Yes.
So I went with a friend of mine and took my clothes off in the grotto while my friend was flirting with 2 girls who said they were sisters, but one of them was Swedish and one of them was Greek. And I was like, great, have a good time, bro. I got in the grotto, took all my clothes off, swam out into the main pool, holding up 2 5s, and guys came to the edge of the pool. I said, I need a gin and tonic and a vodka cranberry. And I said, these are tips for the bartender. They ran, came back. I paddled back, boobs up in the air, into the grotto to find my friend and give him his drink. And he was an ex-boyfriend, so I already seen it. He didn't care. And we're still friends. The Playboy Mansion was, I thought, egalitarian. I really thought it was very pro-female. And
pro-sex.
And pro-sex and pro-good time. And
yeah. It's like an amusement park for grown-ups.
Yeah, I didn't think anything was weird about it. And I was prepared to be like, oh my God, are people going to be doing blow and roller skating with their dicks out? I really didn't know. I didn't know, but it was a party and no one was naked. And in fact, before I swam naked, the other time I went to visit, I walked into the grotto thinking, oh, maybe I'll swim naked again. And people were having sex in the grotto. And I ran to get my friend to say, oh my God, people are doing it in the grotto. And we, not a minute went by. We came back in and security was hustling them out through a fake door in the grotto. There's a rock wall that's an eject door.
Oh, wow.
And they were hustling these 2 out, holding their suits
pod.
up. I loved it. I thought I'm so glad I got to go. And I received a letter from Hugh Hefner asking me if I would like to pose in Playboy, and I couldn't bring myself to do it because I didn't want to embarrass my parents. And then I told my mom and dad, and they were like, well, once they retired, because they were educators.
Sure.
Once my dad retired, he said, okay, you can go ahead and do it. And I was like, time's up. I don't think I can go back now and say, I'm ready. It was only because
I had gone off on that.
It was already over. But yeah, no, that was very flattering.
Sure.
Very flattering.
But do you think you would have done it with your parents' permission earlier? Would you have made that choice? Because that's one of those things. It's like the internet. It exists forever. Once you make that choice and do that.
But I don't have anything against anyone who ever did it.
Oh, I don't either.
I think every woman should be able to do whatever she wants with her body. I think prostitution should be legal. I think it should be taxed. I think I have no problems with sex or nudity or I feel bad that now currently on social media, a lot of young girls feel pressured to take naked photos of themselves. That makes me a little scared and sad for girls that young.
Because it should be a choice that comes from inside the woman. It shouldn't be an external pressure.
Not a peer pressure. Not a boyfriend saying, oh, yeah, I want to see you naked in the magazine. And I'm sure that's happened. I mean, we know that's happened.
Yeah.
So I still, for me, I don't know if I could have done it. So it was never about a stigma. It was...
I don't even mean personally sometimes, but professionally it can have an effect sometimes on someone.
Well, who would think... First of all, because listen, doesn't matter what I look like. Playboy photographer, Playboy lighting, Playboy retouching. I would have looked amazing.
True, and then you have those pictures forever.
But is that someone who's funny? Really?
That's true.
Is that chick funny? I mean, Jenny McCarthy has had a tough fucking run. Yeah, let's face it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me personally, I don't know if it would have worked.
Well, it's cool that Hef reached out anyway.
And
sent you a letter. That's even cooler than doing it almost.
I know, and you know what? I had that letter framed, and I can't find it.
Oh no!
I don't know if maybe
you gotta find.
I had some
letter.
Construction work done, and someone swiped it, but I had it framed, and I remember seeing it. I know where I hung it, and I realize I haven't seen that thing. I haven't seen that in years. I don't know where it is.
Well, try to find it.
Do you think someone swiped my...
I want to read it.
Please pose in Playboy letter?
Maybe. I'd check eBay maybe if I were you.
Shit.
Criminal Minds star Hefner letter on eBay. See what you can buy it back for. I can't thank you enough for doing this for me.
You're a great interviewer. Oh, either that or I just love talking about myself.
You are a great interviewee. I can sit back with you and kind of let you go, which is great. Sometimes you got to pull stuff out of people, which isn't nearly as much fun. But it's been a pleasure hanging out with you.
You're great, Ralph. Thank you. And I can't even. I bought the Joe Blow DVDs.
Joe Schmo.
Schmo. Damn it.
Joe Blow was a porn parody. I think
no,
they did about our show. It was a gay porn
Schmo.
parody.
And didn't you have the eagle?
I had a falcon in the second season.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
the Falcon Twist, Montecore.
I loved it. And they would just cut to the falcon turning.
Yes.
If your fans have not seen Joe Schmo, you've got to get it. You've got to get it. Now I need to find those DVDs. Is it on Hulu or Netflix?
How
would I find it?
Netflix maybe.
Because I gave away my DVD player.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if I have the Joe Schmo anymore.
I think it may be on Netflix or Hulu. The first 2 seasons. The third season I don't think is on any streaming service yet, but yeah, it's around. You can find it.
I love Natasha Leggero.
Yes, she was
the
in
drunk,
season
naked
2.
drunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Janet Varney was the lesbian?
No.
Wait.
No, you're thinking of Burning Love.
Oh, that's right.
Which was a
but
similar
didn't Natasha
parody.
do both?
Yes, she did. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
But the guys
Burning
who
Love.
created that, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, went on to not only write Zombieland, but both Deadpool movies. So now they're
Oh my God.
they're on top of the world now because they're screenwriters for the Deadpool films. But that's where they got their start. Also
Good
with
for
the Joe
them.
Schmo. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, really, they're doing okay.
No kidding.
Right.
So
Guys,
is
if you're
James
listening-
Gunn.
James Gunn's doing okay.
James
for
Gunn's
himself,
doing all
too.
right.
Yeah. So if you're listening, guys, feel free. I got a lot of time on my hands now that I'm not working in radio anymore. Be happy to be in Deadpool 3 or whatever you got. Thank you so much for doing this. What a blast. I love hanging out with you. I love when we do the show with Arden. It's always a good time. And you are just a pleasure and a joy.
So are you, Ralph. Thank you so much.